Hey, all, this is us bringing you all the love. Today's free share is on the topic of manifesting. I'm Jagadisha, online life guide. You can find me at mind.fully.applied on Instagram. See more of me there.
And hi, I'm Rainey Martin. I am a life coach based in Montana, but I work with people all over the country or the world via Zoom, of course. And I can be reached at Coach Rainey at coachrainey.com. And we're excited to talk today about manifesting. Jagadisha, we've been talking about manifesting for a few days now, right? And I'm finding your approach to manifesting a bit frustrating because as far as I have understood this whole manifesting thing is you think of something you want to manifest
Yeah.
and you magically make it happen. And the key is just to figure out how you do the magic. Like you get a wand or
Yeah.
yeah,
I have a pencil. I can
yeah.
use this as my wand.
Hmm.
And, that is kind of a funny thing. I think that happens in all of our minds that we think of manifesting like this magical thing that's supposed to happen. And it reminds me of the way that people talk about spirituality because it's almost like, oh, some people are more spiritual than others, which I really I don't buy into that. I believe that we're all equally spiritual. It's just that we have varying realization of our spirituality. We will be more aware of it according to how willing we are to be aware of it. And we will manifest it or express it into the world based on that willingness. And that turns into our ability.
Okay, I don't want to get too far from manifesting because that's obviously the topic of our talk today, but this does make me think of something that I was just talking to my spiritual coach guide about. It's not just how willing we are, right? Because many of us have blocks about how we show up spiritually, right? We've had experiences in our lifetime, maybe even during other lifetimes, that prevent us from showing up spiritually. Or I guess some people even believe that some people are younger spiritually than other people, right? I don't know if I buy into that, but
Mm, yeah. Does spirituality have an age?
does it? Are there young, the whole young souls, old souls, right? That whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's so common that it has become a stereotypical phrase.
it has. Yeah,
Literally, it has
mainstream.
become a colloquialism. Yes.
Yeah,
A global colloquialism, probably.
possibly. I don't know.
Possibly.
I'm only
So,
American, but
speaking of possibility, manifestation, I'm breaking it down into these two concepts, will and ability.
mm,
So, I'm putting will out there as whatever we see as coming from ourselves. Like, I did that, I created that. You could also call it response ability, or you can run those two words together and say responsibility. Will is responsibility. The other part that we often see as totally magical is potential, potential expression into the world. The magical piece is that bringing it forth where it just sort of appears
yeah,
and we don't really understand from where.
right,
So I wave my magic wand enough, it's bound to happen, right?
right.
But it's not because there's a different thing that needs to happen other than just waving the wand. It's not a rote memory activity. Wait, let me remember how Rainey showed me exactly how to wave the magic wand, like in Harry Potter, right? I'm supposed to do it just like in Harry Potter. And if I do it just like they did it in the movie, then the magic will happen.
Okay, but what are you saying? That it doesn't work that way. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's not all there is to it. I'm not saying it doesn't work that way. I'm saying that's part of the story.
So how do you do it?
And
I want
and
some
this is
instructions, clear
this
instructions.
is your, this is your complaint we're addressing here.
Yes, it
I
is.
want it because you want it to be this way. It's kind of what you're telling me. You're like, give me the magic wand pencil, mail it to me to Montana, all the way from Texas, and then I can manifest.
Right.
And I just want steps A, B, C, and I do want them to be simple, but as soon as I do them, I want the manifestation to appear.
That's right. Let's go.
Yeah. So there, yeah, well, come on, get on with it. What are you waiting for, Jagadisha?
Yeah.
I so what I'm waiting for is the same thing what everybody else is waiting for. There are lots of names for it. Authenticity could be one. Wholeheartedness. Do you really, really, really mean it? True love, true self, true nature, true desire,
Wait a
heart's
minute.
desire.
But if you're unintentionally manifesting all the time, right? Then,
Mm. Ah, note to self. I am unintentionally manifesting all the time.
right? So, so if you're unintentionally, exactly. But
Oh my God.
if you can,
Hallelujah. Oh, fuck.
but if you can unintentionally manifest all the time, then you can't possibly need to be wholehearted and authentic and all those things because you're accidentally manifesting all the time.
Okay, wait. Can we take out the adjective and just say, I am manifesting all the time?
You mean take out accidentally?
Yes, and intentionally. Just take them out.
Okay.
So, I know you want everything fast and you love instant gratification. However, slowing down is actually required for us because of the condition we're in this physical form. And we want to manifest in physical form as well. And that's a gradual process.
Then
So the first thing, you're asking the magical question right now. You're asking the magical question, which is, what am I manifesting?
really, I'm asking, why aren't I manifesting what I want to be manifesting?
Okay, then my response to you is, what are you actually manifesting?
And then I think, oh crap, what have I been manifesting unintentionally all this time? But you don't like the word unintentionally.
Well, I like that word and I think it's accurate. I love everything about that word. So I just want to break it into a smaller bite. So, in other words, can we wrap our minds around, I am manifesting all the time?
But doesn't that go against what you're saying about having to be wholehearted and authentic? Not authentic, I mean, I guess authentic's fine, but like it's like what you were saying is that in order to manifest, one of the steps is to really feel it and embody it and be wholehearted in it. But I think things all the time, right? That I don't feel,
Yes.
right? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, you do. And you are manifesting those things. And so if we go, that's the oh crap part of I'm manifesting all the time. I'm doing it without awareness. That's
Right.
oh crap.
But
Oh crap.
how could we manifest without awareness if we have to be really wholehearted and deeply into it in order to manifest? It seems like a contradiction.
It is a contradiction. It has to do with the way you understand manifesting. because you understand manifesting to be instantaneous gratification,
Mm-hmm.
right? For the practical purposes of this discussion.
Yes, yes. No, it's true.
It- it- yeah. And so if I understand manifesting to be only in the form of expression, it has to be palpable, it has to be tangible, it has to be an object in the world. It's only manifesting if I ask for something physical and then I have evidence of it and I get it instantaneously.
You could ask for joy.
Okay, now we're getting to the wholehearted part. So I'm not so much saying that you have to have authenticity or a wholeheartedness to manifest, so much as I'm saying the kind of manifestation that we all want has wholeheartedness in it. It doesn't matter. So if I asked you, okay, Rainey, I hear you saying that your intention is to manifest a yacht. Now, you get to be, you get to feel joyous and free and full of ease and happiness and freedom every time you get on that yacht. All right. But in the meantime, no. When you get the yacht is when you'll get the ultimate joy, peace, and freedom. Dolores Cannon said it this way. you, you, so the the place to start is the way that you want to ultimately feel. The universe doesn't understand the past. That's how she starts. She says, we're doing it all wrong when we think about someone else we've seen who has something we want.
We have to think about ourselves when we had something we wanted.
Yes, and it needs to be in the present. So the universe understands the present moment.
Well,
And that part is the part you like because that part is instantaneous
okay, totally lost me. How is it instantaneous?
because it's in here.
But what if it isn't? Like, what if you're depressed and you want to manifest joy? How do
There's your will. Where there's a will, there's a way. But there is the will and there is the way.
but if you can't feel it, you're saying you have to feel it in order to manifest it.
Rainey, are you capable of feeling joy?
Yes.
Okay, so you can.
But if you can't feel it right now, you can imagine it, you can wish for it, you can long for it, but
Yes,
you can't actually change your feeling in the moment.
you can't.
No.
That's manifesting. That's why we all want to learn this because yes, you can, and that's called manifesting. And that's where it starts. It starts in here.
So how do you change your emotional state, especially if you're depressed?
Okay. So, especially, I think when we're depressed, when I'm depressed, I will say that's the hardest time for me to change my emotional state.
Right.
And part of the reason for that, I would say, is that it's the definition of depression is fixed mindset. You could just switch them out in your mind for a minute, back and forth, okay? Depression equals fixed mindset. In other words, it means I'm attached to something that is actually already said, done, and spoken for. I'm acting as if my feelings don't change when they've already changed the moment I began to express them or register them. Feelings are a flow.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying, but and I think for the most part I can go with you, but like
Yep.
for instance, grieving for a loss, you know.
Yes.
I mean, it is in the past, but it isn't necessarily a fixed mindset. Like letting yourself feel sad, letting yourself experience that emotion isn't necessarily a fixed mindset.
You're answering your own question right now.
How so?
Allow myself to feel is the answer to your question. What if I'm depressed and I can't change my state of emotion? When I allow myself to feel and just observe whatever's coming up, I will notice that my emotion is changing, that there's a flow. So I'm feeling sadness. I'm not going to fixate on the sadness and be like, oh, I need to change this. That's called gripping and grappling. Some people would call it overthinking, but it's a sort of a rut or a deeply grooved pattern that we're stepping into. Instead, we can be in the flow, in the vortex, as uh, Abraham Hicks would call it, in this place of realizing or recognizing that our hearts are unconditionally open and free. That's the easiest thing in the world to realize. It's the hardest thing in the world to let go of the physicality.
Hmm.
So I can be like, oh yes, that feels so good. Oh my gosh. Once I kind of like am there, I will recognize that I'm there in the feeling, in the sensation, the internal sensation, which is not the one that we're used to, but which is half of the story here.
Um, mm, yeah. So I definitely am still not really following you because if you're depressed and you can't create joy, what you're saying is that then you just allow yourself to feel
Yes.
the act of noticing that you're feeling starts to
Yes.
change the feeling.
Yes. Awareness changes everything it's aware of.
Yes, I know that principle, but it's not true. You can be depressed and be aware that you're depressed and
And
still
it's changing.
no, and it
It's
doesn't change and you stay depressed and you wake up the next morning and you're still depressed.
yes, and you can manifest unknowingly over and over and over again until you decide to do it intentionally. So the moment that I become aware, I am having an impact on whatever I'm becoming aware of just by simply being aware. So
But
the
having
emotion,
impact doesn't mean that you make it go away or
no,
or even
in
change it
fact,
substantially.
you should not try to change it. We're not talking about changing it. We're talking about the fact that it does change and that it is changing. Depression is holding on to the idea that it must be a certain way that I don't want it to be right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
It must, as in it is, you know.
Hmm.
I'm drawing depression is like I'm drawing the conclusion that it is everything or something very big, feels very big to me, is the way I don't want it to be.
Yeah, that's true.
And the truth is that all is transitory.
Yes, but depression can last for a really long time.
Yes, but depression is a pattern, it's not an emotion. Okay. So the way that we're talking about depression right now, it's really important to note. Depression is a pattern that I subconsciously keep repeating. Most of it is subconscious. I don't become conscious of it until I get really almost like sickly,
Yeah.
really painful. When it gets painful, that's when I pay attention. And that is a great time to put in this insertion point, to put a pin in it, so to speak, of I am really fucking depressed. All I want to do is lay here like I'm dead. Maybe I'll just go lay in my bed. There's a yoga pose called Shavasana. It's this way. I could take the depressive feeling, sensation in me and take it to a Shavasana pose. Is that compassionate to myself? Yes, it does feel compassionate to me when I do that. Can I celebrate the compassion? Absolutely. I'm so glad that I decided to do this. Oh my God, I feel my back melting into the floor or the mat or the bed or whatever. So there this will that I've been speaking of, there's a willingness to celebrate. There's a willingness in growth mindset. We can call it 1,000 different names. Faith is action. Action is faith.
That was good, yes. Hmm.
So this is manifestation, so to speak. And so part of my response to you is, well, manifestation is happening instantaneously. What are you noticing right now that's being manifested?
You mean right now, or you mean in our theoretical idea of the Shavasana pose during depression?
No, I mean right now.
What do you mean?
What what's manifesting right now?
Our podcast?
Yeah, what do you notice coming up through you?
You mean like emotionally?
Anything that you're willing to say on camera.
Um,
I'm waving the magic wand.
I see, I see. What's coming up right now? I'm curious about my experiences, curious. I guess the big thing that you said that I'm kind of kerchunking is the idea that, um, like of saying, like if I'm depressed and doing something compassionate for myself in that moment, like Shavasana, and then appreciating that I'm doing that
Mm,
and that kind of shifting, which is I think basically what you've been saying all this time, right? So that
yeah.
shifts my state even incrementally into a state of appreciation instead of
Thanks for noticing. Thanks for noticing. So there's a huge relief in this. You don't have to do it all. But then there's the oh shit part, which is what? I don't control it all. I'm not doing it all. I'm actually not doing this manifesting. That's the faith part. Me, Jagadisha, am not doing this actually. I am not controlling the way the witch is flying through the air by the way that I wave my magic wand. I might have influenced the formation of a tornado that sucked the witch up off the ground and threw the witch into the clouds, but I'm not controlling it. It's not all me, and it is all influenced by this me. I'm always having an impact. Please, 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 may it be aware and intentional.
yeah. So what are the steps to manifesting?
Is this a tutorial on manifesting?
It was supposed to be. It was supposed to be.
I thought it was a suggestion box response to your workplace complaint. One of us does that for a living.
Hmm.
All right. So we could name these a lot of different ways. And part of the reason you and I started talking about this was because there's so many different programs out there where you can end up paying a lot of money actually and spending a lot of time and effort kind of pretending that you can be taught this
And that there's a right way,
and
right?
that there's a right way. And like, well, if it's not working, it's because you're not doing it right. You're not
Yeah.
waving the magic wand, or you need to buy this magic wand, not use that one. And so there's a frustration definitely pushing forward this conversation. And the conversation I feel is very relieving because I can put my own labels on these steps. So the language that works for me is aware, aware acceptance.
Okay.
That's the first step to everything for me.
So when
And
you
that's what feels alive. That's me having faith, surrendering to what feels alive in me. Aware acceptance, step one, every time, always, always, always. So that would be step one of manifesting.
so oh when you say aware, you mean aware of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what we might be, how we're showing up. Is that right? And acceptance is accepting what we're thinking, how we're feeling, and how we're showing up.
I'm double naming the same thing. I'm using an adjective and as a noun as well, right? So it's like a gerund. It says aware acceptance as if it's all one word almost. It's it's realizing something. It's noticing. It's just noticing. It's not endorsing. So a lot of people will tell me in a life guide session that they're afraid to feel the sadness that they detect is welling up inside of them. Because they're afraid it won't stop. They're afraid that they actually have all the power, in other words. And if there's just going to be a dam breaking and the whole world is going to be crushed, it's unimaginable.
Yeah.
Or put in more tangible terms, I'm afraid if I let myself cry now that I'll never stop.
Yeah.
So you can see how clearly that's fixed mindset. Nothing wrong or bad about fixed mindset, except that it becomes very painful at some point. And then we don't like it anymore and we want to get rid of it and we're willing to pay large amounts of money very often to get rid of it. If we believe that way, that it can actually be gotten rid of with another's help. So aware acceptance is step one, no matter what. It's awareness, and I want to be aware that in my awareness, I'm accepting what is. I'm just saying, Rainy's looking at me right now. It doesn't matter if I want you to look at me or not. It's all that matters to me is that I'm aware that you're looking at me right now. I'm leaving the judgment out. You could also just call this non-judging. Just do away with the judging. How do I do that? Well, I just become aware acceptance. I notice. Some people would actually call this meditation. Just going into a state of noticing. Very simple noticing. And once we notice, we have a sense, since we're humans, we have a sense of internal and external. I notice within, I notice out there. And so this draw of our eyeballs is so strong and it's subconscious that's why we close our eyes to meditate very often. That's why the instruction is there. So that's why there's these instructions of how to manifest too, right? We could say, this is how I pray. We could call it a lot of different things. Are you ready for step 2?
Yeah, but I like that idea that manifesting is the same thing as praying.
Yeah, that's gonna write that down. That'll be the next podcast. um, so step 2 from there is once we're aware of something, our mind wants to play with it. And this is just what happens. This is part of being human. And to some degree, in order to not be stuck in depression or fixed mindset, there's an embracing that's happening. With this acceptance, there's a loving that's happening. To accept something, I can't hate it. I must be open to it. I must be in an open-hearted position to be in aware acceptance. I'm just saying how it works. I'm not really saying what you have to do. I'm saying that when it works, you're actually doing this, whether you're aware of it or not. Whenever you're manifesting, this is what's happening. It's more of a description than it is an instruction.
All right.
So discernment could be another name for this. Choosing could be another name of this. Wanting or desiring. Saying it's kind of like bringing the judgment back in, but without the bias. So that's what discernment really is. An older word for it was discrimination, but that picked up a lot of connotation through history. So once we are aware what actually happens in our with our minds, because our minds aren't located right here, they're actually all pervading. The thing that happens with the mind is as soon as it gets something, it chooses it. Now, very crucial point here. If we hate our minds for being busy, we are stuck right there on that step. Oh my God, I didn't follow the directions. My mind was supposed to be clear and empty. I'm supposed to be not judging anything. I'm supposed to be, I have to do this. I must do that. I fucked it up. And then we're back in depression.
Well,
Or something.
yeah, something.
Frustration. Resistance is another word. The opposite of being in the vortex for Abraham Hicks's language is being in resistance.
Yeah.
And it's just a state. It's really actually not that big of a deal. I kind of like that phrase because depression feels like a clinical analysis, diagnosis, and the book is shut and the seal is put on the envelope. I think one thing to understand about this is that we're describing states that are ephemeral. They're just always in flux. They're always in flow. And the only reason it's important to name them is to gain a little bit of momentum in our motivation to actually get where we desire to go.
Okay, so step 1 is aware acceptance. What is step 2? Wanting, discriminating,
Yeah,
discerning?
discernment is what I call it. Discernment. You could also call it choosing. This is why I want to argue with you when you say, but I can't choose my emotional state. I believe that I can choose my emotional state. But first, I have to be in awareness around where I am right now.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Because I want to get these steps down.
All right. That could be a whole podcast in and of itself, I feel. All right. The last part of this, the word that I use for it, and these are from a teacher that I particularly read briefly and just really loved this language because it really locks it in for me. It's very practical for me. So I will say we all need to do what works for us. We need to notice what works for us and feel free to choose it that way. All right. So the third step is to detach, to let it go. The hardest part is letting go of this worldly phantasm that is the real illusion of if I have the yacht and I'll be happy. But in the meantime, I'm practicing making myself unhappy because the universe doesn't understand past or future. It understands now. The universe is happening now. So now I choose to detach from that, whatever it is that I'm appreciating, that I'm choosing, that I'm discerning, that I'm playing with. It's not mine. I'm detaching from it.
How does that help me? I mean, come on. Like, so I'm practicing aware acceptance of whatever state I'm in. And then I discern that I don't want to be in that state. I want to be in a different state on the yacht.
Okay. Okay. I
And
want
then I'm
to
supposed to detach and let go of wanting to be in that state.
let me use a different word. I hear that that word is not working for you. Faith. Step 3 is faith.
Hmm. Hmm. Faith that I'm gonna be in the yacht?
Okay. Also, we would call this um we would call it this occurs kind of like envisioning, right? But with the vision doesn't really matter if you don't believe in it. So feeling it. You can also say this would be um awareness, envisioning, faith. Feel it. Feel it now. Feel it in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
How will I know when I feel it? Well, because it is actually my wish. It's my discernment of what I would rather have, ideally, what I would rather be feeling right now instead of depression, for example. And sometimes I can't get there. I hear you. So I put some awareness in, I put an action or activity into it. Envisioning is an activity, it's an action. I can daydream into existence the yacht kind of feeling. And sometimes that unhooks me from the depression,
So
actually.
the discernment choosing step is actually also envisioning, or could be envisioning. Okay.
Yes.
So aware acceptance, discernment, choosing, envisioning, detaching, letting go, having faith.
Yes. You ready for step 4?
Yes.
Repeat. Repeat over time because we are already trained in this way. We're ingrained really in this way of and we're invested in it because it feels comfortable because it's so familiar and it's what everybody else is doing. So I've got to unravel that rut. I've got to unravel that way of doing things. And I can't rely on other people to reinforce my new way of doing things. So step 4 is just developing this into a practice,
Practice.
also making a commitment. Some people say commit, you know?
Hmm. Well, I don't know.
You still don't know. You must be confused.
It just feels like there's something missing here.
Yeah, maybe if you're willing to celebrate that something's missing, it all dissolves. The timeline dissolves. You're, you know,
Dissolve the timeline.
dissolve your current concept of reality. Because willingness to celebrate, this is why I start with effectively the will and the ability, the will and the way. These are two different names that it's called throughout recorded language since the beginning of recorded language as we know it.
So
The will and the way.
maybe detaching, letting go, having faith, all of that is remembering that we are just spiritual beings having a physical experience. And part of the physical experience is experiencing as much as possible. And that includes contrast, that includes negative and positive, that includes experiencing things we don't want and celebrating that we are experiencing that.
The all inclusive intuitive.
But that is not manifesting. That is being okay with where you are.
That is manifesting inclusion.
What does that mean?
To include is to manifest inclusion. And that's instantaneous. There's your instant gratification. Yeah. And so like I feel like I'm convincing you to take credit at some point, right? Like I'm like, Rainey, you're already manifesting so much. And some of that is inclusion, which is actually intelligence and into in the form of intuition, because that is all this universe is doing, we could say, is including and including, expanding, expanding, expanding. So give some credit here. I manifested inclusion just now because I walked over to the coffee server and started chatting with someone who showed up here alone. So I included them. I just manifested inclusion.
Hmm.
So there's action and there was faith in that.
Hmm.
And action is faith also. That's equally true. We can split it up into two different things because it helps me think about how I can follow the steps
What are you
and how I
manifesting right now?
mm, I'm manifesting teaching. I'm manifesting an offering. I'm manifesting a wish for all beings to benefit. And, if every moment for the rest of my life is me manifesting this, I am happy for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
Like, that's just amazing. That's an amazing thought to me that that is the actual potential.
Yeah,
Now, my experience so far is that I forget all about this.
right,
The instant that something happens that I don't like very much.
right.
It's like watching the old Roadrunner cartoons where it splat into a car at the intersection, right? Wile E. Coyote. And that's okay. Ultimately, that's okay because that tells me It gives me a reminder, it gives me a signal or a clue or a prompt to look both ways when I come to an intersection, like, discernment, making a choice. What I want does matter.
Hmm.
It's actually driving what I will actually do. I will do what I want. I said it to my mother enough times growing up.
Hmm. Well, we should probably wrap up.
Yeah. So I think we've gotten maybe as far as we can get on the topic of manifesting for today. So to close out, I'll just say all love to all of you.
Hmm.